He thought the call had dropped. He thought I wasn't there anymore. He thought the line was silent because I had disappeared into that digital void people use as an excuse when they say, "Sorry, the signal failed." But I was there, quiet, still, listening. And I heard every word he said about me. People talk differently when they think you're gone. They reveal who they are, who they've always been, and what they really think about you when they're convinced there won't be consequences. He had no idea that the silence wasn't the signal dying. It was my heart breaking. It was my mind waking up. It was the moment I stopped being the woman who made excuses for him. I didn't say a word while it happened. I just pressed the phone against my ear a little harder, like that would somehow make his voice less sharp, less cruel, less honest. But there was no version of those words that wouldn't cut me open. He laughed. That was the worst part. He laughed like I was a joke he had outgrown. Like my loyalty was something to mock. Like my trust was something disposable. "He won't leave her," his friend said. "Yeah," he answered. "She doesn't have it in her. She needs me too much." I felt something inside me shift, quiet, deep, irreversible. It wasn't anger yet, it was comprehension. For so long, I had tried to understand him. But now, I understood everything. Not the version he performed for me, but the truth he accidentally revealed when he thought the line had gone dead. And here's the part no one tells you. The moment you truly hear someone, you can never unhear it. You can never go back to who you were minutes before. You can never unknow the truth. I didn't hang up. I waited. I listened to him talk about me like I was a placeholder, something convenient, something that wouldn't dare leave. He thought I was still the old version of myself, the one who trusted too easily, forgave too quickly, and stayed too long. But sometimes all a woman needs is one moment of clarity, and that call was mine. When he finally realized I was still on the line, he said my name with fake softness, fake innocence, fake surprise. "Babe, are you there?" I didn't answer. Not because I was speechless, but because silence was the first step of my exit. He had no idea that while he waited for me to speak, I was already planning, already detaching, already gone in the ways that mattered. That was the moment the story truly began, not the betrayal itself. Betrayals are common, predictable, basic, but the consequence, the silent consequence he never imagined I was capable of, because he was wrong about many things, but mostly he was wrong about me. He thought I would stay. He thought I would swallow it. He thought I would cry. He thought I would cling to him like a woman terrified of being alone. But no, I was finally seeing him, and more importantly, I was finally seeing myself. That phone call didn't break me, it woke me up. And once a woman wakes up, she doesn't go back to sleep. Before that call, I was the kind of woman people described as understanding. They said it like it was a virtue, like it was strength. But what they didn't see was how often understanding meant shrinking. I trusted him, not blindly, but generously. I believed that love meant patience, that commitment meant flexibility, and that being a good partner sometimes meant stepping back so the other person could feel bigger. So I stepped back, again and again. When he canceled plans, I told myself he was tired. When he forgot important dates, I said it wasn't intentional. When his tone changed, when affection became inconsistent, when warmth turned into habit, I convinced myself that this was just what long relationships looked like. I adapted. I softened. I learned how to read the room before speaking, how to phrase my needs so they wouldn't sound like demands, how to silence questions before they became problems. I thought love required sacrifice. I didn't realize how much of myself I was giving up in the process. He liked that version of me, the one who didn't challenge him, didn't question his absences, didn't ask why I always felt like I was waiting for him to come back emotionally. He called me easy. He meant controllable. And I mistook his comfort for commitment. I believed we were building something solid because I was always the one reinforcing it. I was the one who remembered things, who checked in, who made space. I carried the emotional weight so evenly that he never felt it at all. That's the thing about women who give too much. They make it look effortless. So the man begins to believe that effort isn't required. I remember moments now, small ones, that should have mattered more at the time. The way he stopped asking about my day, the way his phone was always face down, the way he sighed when I brought up something that bothered me, as if my feelings were an inconvenience he had outgrown. But I stayed, not because I was weak, but because I was hopeful. I believed that loyalty was louder than doubt, that time would smooth the rough edges, that if I loved him the right way, he would meet me there eventually. I didn't see that he was already gone, just not brave enough to leave yet. Looking back, I can see how small I had become inside that relationship. Not visibly, not in ways others could point to, but internally, I was constantly adjusting, rewriting my own needs, lowering expectations, making excuses for behavior that didn't sit right with me. I was loyal to the version of him I believed in, and loyal to the idea of us. What I didn't know was that while I was protecting what we had, he was talking about me like I was disposable, like I was predictable, like I wouldn't dare walk away. That phone call didn't come out of nowhere. It came after months of subtle erosion, moments where I felt something was off but didn't yet have proof. Proof changes everything. Before the call, I still hoped. I still believed we were a team. I still thought silence meant peace, not avoidance. But after the call, I understood the truth. I wasn't his partner anymore. I was his safety net. And the woman I was before the fall, the one who trusted, who softened, who adjusted, she didn't disappear overnight. She faded quietly, making room for someone stronger, someone more aware, someone who would no longer confuse endurance with love. That woman didn't scream, she didn't confront him, she didn't demand explanations. She listened, she learned, and she began to change. The truth is, the first signs were quiet. They always are. Betrayal rarely walks through the door loudly. It slips in through small changes that don't look dangerous at first, and because you still love the person, you explain them away. At least, I did. It started with his silences, not peaceful silences, evasive ones, the kind that feel like he's somewhere else, even when he's sitting right beside you. He used to tell me everything, his annoyances, his frustrations at work, the small things that made him laugh. Then one day, I realized I didn't know what his week had been like, or the one before, or the one before that. I was still sharing. He had stopped listening. His phone became a fifth limb, always with him, always turned away, always lighting up with messages he wouldn't open until he walked out of the room. But when I asked, he gave me that tired smile, the one men use when they want you to feel dramatic for being observant. Babe, don't start. Start what? Noticing? He stopped saying goodnight, not verbally, but emotionally. He would turn to his side quickly, like there was a deadline he needed to meet. No kiss on the forehead, no reaching for my hand under the blanket. Just distance, the kind of distance that pretends to be normal. He wasn't mean. That was the tricky part. He wasn't cold enough to be accused of anything, just distracted, a little impatient, a little too unavailable for someone who claimed to still care. One afternoon, I found a receipt in his jacket from a restaurant I had never been to with him. I stared at the date at the top. I knew exactly where I had been that day. Home, waiting for him to finish errands. I put the receipt back, not because I wanted to ignore it, but because I wanted to see how far the lie would go. When I asked about his day, he told me he had grabbed a quick sandwich at a drive-thru and eaten in the car. He said it with the confidence of someone who believed I would swallow anything. I nodded, and something inside me shifted again. He started taking more showers than usual when he got home, long ones. Showers at hours that never made sense. Showers that smelled like he was washing off guilt instead of sweat. I didn't question it, I didn't have to. Sometimes silence is the loudest confirmation. Then came the sudden kindness, the compliments out of nowhere. The want anything from the store? The let me help you with that? The sweetness that tasted like cover-up rather than love. Men become gentle when they fear being discovered, and women who've been loyal know the difference. His friends changed too. They grew awkward around me. Conversations with them felt like walking into a room after people had been talking about you. They weren't rude, just careful. Careful is suspicious. But the biggest sign wasn't something he did. It was something I stopped doing. I stopped defending him, stopped explaining him, stopped giving reasons for behavior that didn't deserve my loyalty. My intuition wasn't whispering anymore, it was screaming. Something was wrong, something was missing, and something was happening behind my back that he believed I would never find out. He thought I was still the version of myself who swallowed doubts. He didn't realize that doubt, once planted, grows roots. And once it grows, it changes everything. By the time the phone call happened, betrayal wasn't a surprise. It was the confirmation of what I already knew, that the man I loved was slowly slipping away, and he didn't care enough to hide it well. But he didn't know who I was becoming while he drifted. He didn't know that every silence, every lie, every shift in his tone was preparing me. Because women don't break from betrayal. They transform. Humiliation doesn't always come in big scenes. Sometimes it comes disguised as normal moments, moments so ordinary that if you repeat them to someone else, they might say you're exaggerating. But humiliation isn't about the size of the act. It's about how small it makes you feel. And he made me feel small in ways he never admitted, never apologized for, never even noticed. He began treating my presence like background noise, like I was something that simply existed around him, familiar, convenient, predictable. The comfort of a chair he sat on every day, without ever wondering if it might break. He would talk over me when we were with friends, not aggressively, casually. The kind of interruption that tells you someone doesn't even consider what you're saying relevant enough to wait for. And every time it happened, he didn't even glance at me to see if I was bothered. Why would he? In his mind, I was unshakable, someone too loyal, too patient, too forgiving to ever push back. He loved that version of me, the version he didn't have to respect to keep. One night, while we were out with a few people he knew, he made a joke at my expense. Not a playful one, a sharp one, the kind that stings even though everyone else laughs lightly to make it less uncomfortable. He looked over at me afterward, searching my face not for hurt, but for compliance, for the usual soft smile I used to give to keep the peace, and I almost did. It's incredible how trained we become to protect the ego of the person hurting us, but something stopped me. A quiet, steady awareness. He feels safe, humiliating me, because I've allowed it. Later that night, he fell asleep instantly, as if emotional cruelty takes no energy from the person who delivers it. I stayed awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, realizing something I had avoided for too long. He didn't see me as a partner. He saw me as an option, a default, a resource he didn't need to refill because he believed it would never run out. He underestimated my limits. He underestimated my silence. He underestimated the capacity of a woman to endure. And the moment she stops enduring, the more distant he grew, the more predictable his cruelty became. He started telling me what kind of woman he admired, and none of those qualities belonged to me, not because I lacked value, but because he was already mentally comparing me to someone else. "You're too emotional," he said once. He didn't say it with concern, he said it with boredom. As if my feelings were clutter on a table he wished he could clear with one sweep of his hand. Another day, when I asked if he wanted to have dinner together, something simple, something normal, he sighed. A sigh that said more than any argument ever could. A sigh that meant, "You again?" He didn't have to cheat physically to betray me. He betrayed me with neglect, with arrogance, with the certainty that I would always be there no matter how little effort he put into us. And that's the deepest humiliation a loyal woman can experience. Not that the man stops loving her, but that he stops caring whether she notices. He had grown comfortable believing I had nowhere else to go, that my loyalty was dependence, that my softness was weakness. He believed he could treat me any way he wanted, and I would stay. And maybe Before the call, before everything I heard, before the truth broke through the fog of hope, maybe I would have. But the woman lying in bed beside him that night, the one listening to his steady breathing, the one replaying every dismissive word, every cold gesture, every moment he made her feel small, that woman was not the same one he met. He didn't notice the change. Of course he didn't. Men like him don't realize a woman is drifting away until she's already gone. And he was about to learn that lesson in the most painful way possible. The days after the call felt strangely calm, not peaceful, calm in the way the air feels right before a storm. Everything looks the same, but nothing is the same. And inside you, something is shifting quietly, forming a new version of yourself you haven't met yet. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. I didn't throw accusations in his face. That kind of chaos would have given him power, the power to say I was overreacting, emotional, irrational. No, I wanted clarity, not conflict, so I watched. I observed. I studied the man I had loved for years, now through a lens I never asked for but desperately needed. He acted the same, or at least he tried to, but once you've heard the truth, the real truth, spoken when he thinks you're not there, every small behavior becomes a translation. His excuses sounded emptier. His explanations felt rehearsed. His smiles looked like masks slipping at the edges, and I felt lighter. That was the unexpected part. Pain usually weighs us down, but this pain felt like a release, like setting down a burden I didn't realize I'd been carrying for too long. I didn't rush to make a decision. Women like me don't act impulsively. We rebuild slowly, quietly, deliberately. I started going on long walks alone, something I hadn't done in months because we usually did things together. I realized we hadn't done things together in a long time. I had just stopped doing anything without him. I cooked meals only for myself. I slept diagonally across the bed. I let the house return to a rhythm that wasn't centered around him. Every small act became a declaration. I exist without you. I matter without you. I am not defined by the way you see me. And the more I returned to myself, the more he noticed something was off. Funny how men who ignore you for months suddenly become attentive the moment you stop orbiting around them. He started asking questions, not out of concern, but out of fear of losing control. You're quiet today. You didn't text me this morning. You're going out. With who? His voice wasn't loving. It was possessive. The tone of a man who never doubted he owned the ground you walked on until the floors started to shake. I answered calmly every time. My silence wasn't passive anymore. It was intentional. Silence, when chosen, is one of the most powerful languages a woman can speak. And slowly, without announcing it, without planning it, without telling anyone about it, I began creating my exit. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to Stories We Tell. Your support helps us keep creating stories about strength, self-respect, and new beginnings, because stories that restore dignity deserve to be told and remembered. After the CTA moment, life after the fall becomes clearer. I reorganized my finances. I found documents he thought I never paid attention to. I backed up photos, emails, passwords. I removed sentimental items from places where they could trap me emotionally. I made copies of everything that belonged to me, professionally, personally, financially. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning freedom. And with every step, I felt myself becoming stronger. Stronger in ways I couldn't have imagined when I was drowning in doubt. One morning I looked at myself in the mirror and realized something powerful. I didn't miss him. I missed who I thought he was. I missed the version of us that never actually existed. I missed the woman I used to be before I started shrinking. But him? No. Because once you see a man clearly, once you hear him speak freely when he thinks you're not listening, the illusion dies. And all that remains is the truth. The truth was this. He didn't lose me suddenly. He lost me slowly. Through every sigh, every lie, every moment he made me feel small. I didn't tell him any of this. He wouldn't have understood. And privately, silently, quietly, I prepared for the moment he would make the mistake that would set me free. And he did. Oh, he did. He just never imagined I'd be listening. Women don't leave when the relationship ends. They leave when they end, quietly, internally, weeks or months before they pack anything into a bag. And that's what happened to me. My decision didn't come all at once. There was no loud moment, no dramatic scene, no explosion of anger that forced clarity. It came in pieces, small realizations, tiny awakenings, moments that slipped under the door like sunlight and illuminated places inside me I hadn't looked at in a long time. The first moment was this. I stopped explaining myself, not in a reactive way, not with coldness or distance, just naturally. When he asked why I wasn't home early, I said, I had things to do. When he questioned who I was texting, I said, a friend. When he made comments meant to provoke guilt, I let them land on the floor instead of on my shoulders. He wasn't used to that. He was used to me offering explanations like gifts. He was used to me over-clarifying, over-reassuring, over-giving. My silence confused him. The second moment, I started paying attention to details he thought I never noticed. His schedule, his mood shifts, his inconsistencies, his bad signal moments when the call would mysteriously drop at the same time every night. Before, those things made me anxious. Now they made me observant. He didn't know that the same silence he used to manipulate me was now the silence I used to study him. The third moment, I stopped trying to be chosen. Women like me, the loyal, the patient, the ones who hold everything together, we don't realize how much we sacrifice until we stop doing it. I stopped adjusting myself to keep him comfortable, stopped softening my voice, stopped walking on emotional tiptoes, stopped asking for crumbs of attention as if they were gifts. And when a woman stops trying to be chosen, a man starts fearing he's losing her. He didn't say that, of course, but I saw it in his eyes, in the way he lingered when I walked out the door, in the way he asked questions he never used to ask, in the way his jokes lost their sharpness and gained uncertainty. He could feel me withdrawing, but he couldn't understand it, because in his mind, I was the woman who would never leave. He still thought the version of me who tolerated everything was alive. He didn't know that version had died the moment he mocked me on that call. The fourth moment, and maybe the most important, was when I sat alone one night and realized I wasn't scared anymore. Not of losing him, not of being alone, not of starting over. Fear is what kept me small. Fear is what made me tolerate things I shouldn't have. Fear is what convinced me he was better than being alone. But fear left me quietly. It slipped out through the same broken door where his respect had escaped. And once fear left, decision entered. Not with fanfare, not with adrenaline, just with unmistakable clarity. I wasn't staying, not in my heart, not in my mind, not in my future. And here is the part he never understood. A woman doesn't need to yell to leave. She doesn't need to slam doors or cry or make speeches that shake the walls. Sometimes she leaves while smiling. Sometimes she leaves while cooking dinner. Sometimes she leaves while sitting right beside the man who thinks everything is fine. I left him long before he realized I was going. And my decision, my quiet, unshakable decision, wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making him pay. It was about reclaiming the pieces of myself I had abandoned to love him. He mistook my silence for compliance. But my silence was preparation. Because the moment he made his final mistake, the moment he said one sentence too many, the moment he underestimated me for the last time, I was ready. And the fall he believed I wouldn't survive was exactly what made me rise. The moment he ruined everything didn't come wrapped in drama. There was no lipstick on a collar, no perfume on his shirt, no suspicious photo accidentally left open. Men like him don't slip in obvious ways. They slip in confident ways, in arrogant ways, in ways that show they truly believe you're not paying attention. It happened on a Tuesday, a normal, unremarkable, boring Tuesday. The kind of day betrayal loves, because no one expects the world to shift when the sky is so ordinary. He was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone with that half smirk he always had when he was texting someone he shouldn't be texting. Before the call, months earlier, that smirk would have made my stomach twist. But now, it only confirmed what I already knew. He was getting sloppy. He kept turning his phone slightly away from me. Not dramatically, just enough to make it obvious. I didn't bother reacting. Instead, I walked past him and went into the kitchen. Not to snoop, not to catch him, just to let the silence work. Men say a lot when they think you're not listening, but they say even more when they think you don't care. After a few minutes, I heard him laugh softly, a private laugh, a laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Then came the sentence that changed everything. He lowered his voice, but not enough. "She thinks I'm working late again," he typed out loud to whoever was on the other side. "She never questions anything. She's comfortable. She's not going anywhere." I froze, not because it hurt. It didn't. Not anymore. It confirmed what the call had already revealed. He didn't just betray me. He underestimated me. He believed he owned my loyalty like it was a property he purchased years ago and never had to maintain. He believed I was predictable. Predictable. That was the word that hit me hardest, because a woman who no longer loves isn't predictable. A woman who has woken up isn't predictable. A woman who is silently preparing her exit is the most unpredictable force in the world. I didn't confront him. I simply stood in the doorway, invisible to him, and watched him dig his own grave with every keystroke. Then, as if the universe wanted to make sure I never doubted what I heard, his phone buzzed again, and the name that flashed on the screen was a woman's name, a name I didn't recognize, a name he had never mentioned. He didn't even hide it this time. He let the notification sit there openly, not because he trusted me, but because he underestimated me. He thought I was still the woman who wanted to believe him, who wanted to keep the peace, who would rather doubt herself than doubt him. But that woman wasn't standing in the doorway. I was. The woman who had listened silently through a phone call he thought had ended. The woman who had stopped explaining herself. The woman who had already begun to leave him in her heart. His mistake wasn't cheating. His mistake was assuming I would tolerate it. His mistake wasn't texting another woman. His mistake was believing I was too weak to walk away. His mistake wasn't lying. His mistake was thinking I still cared enough to ask for the truth. He didn't see me step back into the kitchen. He didn't see me inhale slowly, calmly, as if I were closing a chapter in the book of my life. He didn't see the quiet smile that appeared on my face, not sad, not bitter, just certain. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. I wasn't leaving because he betrayed me. I was leaving because he believed I wouldn't. That was the true disrespect. That was the true humiliation. That was the true insult. And the moment he typed those words, the moment he revealed exactly how little he thought of my strength, I understood. He had already lost me. And the only thing left was for him to find out. I didn't act right away. That's what people misunderstand about women like me. They think silence means confusion. They think calm means weakness. They think a lack of confrontation means lack of courage. They're wrong. Silence is not absence. Silence is control. I waited 3 days, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to be certain that when I moved, I would never look back. Those 3 days were ordinary on the surface. I went to work. I answered messages. I cooked dinner. I smiled when he spoke to me. And that was the most unsettling part for him. He could feel something was different, but he couldn't locate it. He kept watching me from the corner of his eye, searching for signs. Anger, sadness, confrontation. He needed a reaction to anchor himself. I gave him none. On the third night, he sat across from me at the table and said, "You've been distant." Not worried, not apologetic, just observant, like a man noticing a shift in weather, not a fracture in a relationship. I looked at him and realized something surprising. I felt nothing. No rage, no heartbreak, no urge to explain myself, just clarity. "I've been paying attention," I said. That was it. One sentence, measured, precise. His face tightened slightly. Men don't fear accusations, they fear awareness. "What do you mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light. "I mean," I said calmly, "that I know exactly who I'm with." He laughed softly, dismissively, the laugh of someone who still thinks he's ahead of the game. "You're overthinking," he said. I didn't correct him. I didn't reveal what I knew. I didn't mention the call. I didn't mention the texts. Because the power was no longer in the explanation, it was in the decision. That night, while he slept, deeply, peacefully, convinced nothing had changed, I packed. Not dramatically, not hurriedly. I took only what belonged to me. Clothes, documents, personal items that carried my history, not our illusion. I didn't leave a note. I didn't owe him one. The next morning he woke up alone. At first he thought I had gone out early. Then he noticed the closet. Then the silence. Then the weight of a reality he never imagined. He called me once, twice, 10 times. I didn't answer. Then came the messages. "Where are you? This isn't funny. We need to talk. You can't just disappear. Disappear." That word made me smile. Not cruelly, not triumphantly, but knowingly. He was experiencing the exact thing he believed I was incapable of doing. Leaving. I didn't block him. I didn't need to. I let him sit in the uncertainty he had fed me for months. That afternoon I sent one message, just one. "I heard the call you thought had dropped, and I heard who you think I am." No accusations, no insults, just truth. He replied instantly. Long messages, explanations, apologies that arrived too late to mean anything. He said he didn't mean it, that it was taken out of context, that I misunderstood. But here's the thing about clarity. It doesn't argue. I didn't respond. Because the moment a woman leaves without needing closure, the story is already over. I wasn't walking away to punish him. I was walking toward myself, and the justice wasn't in his panic or his regret or his sudden understanding of my value. The justice was in the quiet certainty that I would never again allow myself to be spoken about or treated as if I were replaceable. I didn't rebuild my life instantly. No one does. Leaving him didn't magically erase the months of loneliness, the quiet humiliations, or the burden of carrying a relationship alone. But walking away did something much more important. It gave me back to myself. The first morning in my new place felt unfamiliar, almost too quiet, but it wasn't the suffocating quiet of being ignored. It was peaceful, like breathing air that finally belonged to me. There were no footsteps to anticipate, no phone turned face down on the table, no waiting, no shrinking. Just space, open, honest space. For the first time in a long time, I made coffee exactly the way I like it, not the way he preferred. I put on music he always said was too dramatic. I opened the curtains wide, even though he loved dim rooms. It was strange how much of myself I had muted to coexist with someone who never intended to meet me halfway. The silence in my new home didn't hurt. It healed, and slowly, not overnight, not dramatically, I began to feel like a person again. I went back to old hobbies. I reconnected with friends I had unintentionally drifted from. I started sleeping deeply for the first time in months because I no longer had to share a bed with anxiety. Healing wasn't loud. It was gentle, consistent, steady. Meanwhile, he was unraveling. He sent message after message, long paragraphs, late-night calls, sudden confessions about how he didn't realize what he had. He wanted explanations. He wanted closure. He wanted a version of me that would soothe his guilt the way I used to soothe his frustrations. But closure is a luxury you give to people who valued you. He had not. I didn't delete his messages. I didn't block him. I didn't respond either. Silence was the only truth he deserved. A week later, he asked if we could meet just to talk. I didn't even consider it. There was nothing left to talk about. The story had ended the moment he said the words he never meant for me to hear. And that's the part he will never understand. I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because he stopped respecting me. Love without respect is dependency. Respect without love can still be partnership. But a relationship without either is just a slow, painful erosion of self. I refused to erode any further. Months passed. My life began to feel full again, not because someone new entered it, but because I did. I became softer in ways I chose, stronger in ways I earned, and calmer in ways I never thought possible. Sometimes healing isn't about starting over. Sometimes healing is simply returning to the person you were before someone tried to convince you that you weren't enough. As for him, he stayed exactly where I left him, in the small, shallow certainty that made him believe he would never lose me. Men like him don't change because they are confronted. They change only when they finally face a world where their arrogance no longer protects them. And even then, most don't choose growth. They choose regret. Every now and then, I catch myself replaying the moment I heard his voice on that call. Not with pain, not with anger, but with gratitude. Because sometimes the truth you were never meant to hear is the truth that finally sets you free. I didn't get revenge. I didn't destroy him. I didn't expose him. I simply walked away. And that was enough, because the real victory wasn't leaving him. It was choosing myself. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Stories We Tell, leave a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us keep creating stories about strength, self-respect, and new beginnings, because stories that restore dignity deserve to be told and remembered. Thank you for being here.